A 1,000-year-old vampire was trapped in a spell and was about to be destroyed. He turned his head to the man on the side and successfully convinced him with a textbook performance, and the man threw a slipper to break the spell. At this point, nothing could stop the vampire. He turned into a ghostly mist into the body of the Pope. The Pope was blown to pieces on the spot. Why would this man want to help the evil vampire? Centuries ago, Renfield met the vampire Dracula, who thought highly of him and often took Renfield to and from high society. Unknowingly, Renfield became Dracula's servant, providing him with fresh and pure human beings. In return, Dracula granted Renfield immortality and extraordinary powers, which required him to eat a variety of bugs. Over the centuries, the vampire hunters have never stopped hunting Dracula, and this time he encounters his most powerful opponent. Trapped in the middle of a spell, Renfield comes to the rescue just in time. Not expected, another hunter to see the timing of an arrow knocked off the curtain. Instant fire Dracula pounced on the hunter. The Dracula is still alive after this battle, but his ability is not as good as before. Renfield took Dracula to a new city to hide, providing fresh blood every day. The same was repeated over and over again for hundreds of years. Gradually, Renfield began to get tired of such a life. Into a confused, he joined a mutual aid society where people could tell their plight. The woman kept crying about a man named Mickey hurting her. Hearing this, Renfield could not help but laugh out loud. He quietly ate a worm. Fresh blood can be found for Dracula. Renfield has his principles. Usually the ones he targets are the bad guys. Soon, Renfield came to a warehouse. Mickey was in it. These people were a theft gang, just stolen a batch of white flour. Renfield didn't even say a few words before knocking them out. When Renfield was ready to take back to Dracula to enjoy, was blocked by a masked strongman. He was hired by the mob to kill them. A misunderstanding caused by the fight began. Renfield easily lifted the strongman. Did not expect the guy pulled out another knife and cut Renfield's stomach. At this time Renfield's superpower has passed most of the time. Need to eat another bug to enhance the power. The strong man was easily thrown away. Renfield endured the severe pain and struck a fatal blow. The strong man's head was knocked out of the window. This scene was the car of the gangster young master Tedward saw in the eyes and thought he saw a ghost, cursing a foot of floor gas drive on the run. However, Tedward's luck is not very good. The front policewoman, Rebecca, is checking the car, looking at the vehicle in front suspiciously. They ask him to stop to accept the inspection. There is flour in the car. Tedward is scared to abandon the vehicle and fled, while running to throw flour everywhere. Rebecca, of course, will not spoil him. A police baton to teach him to be a man. On the other hand, Renfield packed those guys back to the lair. Dracula tasted a mouthful and cursed Renfield. The addict's blood was garbage to him. So angry that he slashed Renfield's injured stomach again. Dracula again declared that he only wanted clean and pure human blood, preferably from a young girl like a female cheerleader, so that he could recover quickly. After getting Renfield's assurance, Dracula used his blood to heal his wounds. Rebecca at the police station is overjoyed, thinking that if she catches Tedward, she will be able to eradicate the gang. Still, the next second, Tedward is released on bail, and the captain advises Rebecca to mind her own business and do her job as a traffic cop. It seems the gang buys the captain and the entire police department. Tedward's mother was the most ruthless gang leader in the area. Their gang's prestige has recently plummeted, instigating her son to create bloodshed to enhance the gang's deterrent effect. The persistent Rebecca did not give up on the case. She found a bloody ballpoint pen with the tavern's name printed on it near the warehouse, and at this time, the pub Renfield is ready to help Dracula to find clean blood. Just as he was about to make a move on the cheerleader girl, Rebecca and Chris enter the bar. Renfield hurriedly puts away the tools of the crime, ready to flee the scene. Unluckily, a large group of masked men with guns outside killed in. Renfield wanted to eat a bug to replenish a state, but a careless lost the box containing the bug. No form Renfield dared not act rashly. It is because of Rebecca the reputation of the young master of the mob is ruined. Tonight Tedward is ready to cleanse the tavern, but in the face of the threat of death, Rebecca is fearless. Renfield is shocked by her face of righteousness. No bugs around to find a fly to taste. Renfield stepped forward and allowed Rebecca to get out of the way. With the two of them working together, the gang members were simply not enough to see, and all the little brother were knocked to the ground in a bloodbath. Renfield inadvertently saved the whole bar and became the hero of people's mouths. The feeling of being respected is great. This is an experience he has never had before, but there is one person very upset. Dracula immediately recalls Renfield. At this time, he is tasting a cup of fresh blood. These innocent victims let his face slowly recover. When he regains his full strength, he will do something great. Renfield is not interested in conquering the world or anything, and has been a vampire servant for hundreds of years. He no longer wants to live like this, so Renfield came to the support group and told his story for the first time. Under the guidance and encouragement of the members of the Mutual Aid Society, Renfield decided to live for himself and no longer follow the orders of his master, Dracula. From that day on, Renfield never returned to Dracula's lair, released all the insects in the small box, and rented an apartment to start a new life. The police station Rebecca invited all the witnesses to the restaurant. Renfield also appeared at a party. Everyone can accuse the mob of crimes, but most of the police officers are paid by the mob. Deliberate indulgence. Ted Ward. Meanwhile, the gangsters found Renfield's lair through video surveillance. Ted Ward and his men rushed to the scene. When they entered the lair, they found an unusually eerie atmosphere with gusts of gloomy wind, and the room was scattered with corpses that had been drained of blood. Before Ted Ward could recover, his men were all solved by Dracula. Dracula, who thought they were vampire hunters. Ted Ward is almost terrified and repeatedly declares that he is an unscrupulous gangster who has come to seek revenge on Renfield. See the photo. Dracula was furious. A punch to Ted Ward turned into a group of bats flew out of the nest. When Renfield returned from the police station, Dracula had been waiting for him in his apartment for a long time. Because he drank enough blood of his face has basically recovered. Renfield saw him cannot help but feel hairy inside. His behavior for Dracula is undoubtedly betrayal. Renfield, who did not know how to respond, took out the book published by the Mutual Aid Society and explained his thoughts with the statements in the book. Seeing the address on the back of the book, Dracula immediately understood that his once faithful servant had been brainwashed and instantly disappeared. Renfield sensed that something was wrong and immediately went to the Mutual Aid Society, warning everyone to leave. While everyone is confused, the evil Dracula appears, and the members don't know that danger is approaching until Dracula shows them the scary side of vampires. But it's too late. Dracula through Renfield started a killing spree. In just a few seconds, all the members of the Mutual Aid Society are killed. Soon, Rebecca and Chris came here. Seeing the scene of the corpses everywhere, they could not believe their eyes and thought Renfield killed these people. Rebecca asked Chris to ask for backup, and to the surprise, the people who came to the scene were not a police car but a large group of gangsters. It turns out that Chris was also bribed. Captain Chief forced her to hand over Renfield. Rebecca is not willing to be complicit. Turn around and shoot. Take advantage of the chaos and drive away with Renfield. This black and white teamed up with the criminal city, immediately launched a citywide arrest. Dracula was in a particularly good mood tonight. He returned to his lair when Ted Ward had just awakened, and he was willing to provide manpower for Dracula's necromantic forces to realize the plan to conquer the world. The next day, Rebecca, suffering from gunshot wounds, woke up in Renfield's apartment, and now Renfield had to reveal his true identity and his relationship with Dracula. That's when Kate calls. The DNA on that pen is linked to multiple murders, and the two meet at a cafe, but the apartment is surrounded by police cars and gangs. Awkwardly, the box with the bugs has been thrown away by Renfield. He then remembers that the neighbor kid has some ants, and after eating them, his superpowers are instantly restored. A fierce battle was inevitable. Renfield was merciless. A time of blood and limbs flying. Corrupt police and gang members had never seen such an operation, and it did not take long for the bodies to pile up like a mountain. In the mob headquarters, the captain saw on the video that his men had suffered heavy losses and said he was going to suspend cooperation with the mob. Cursing and walking towards the door, just as he left the gate, Ted Ward snapped his neck. It seems he also has the terrible power of Dracula. Ted Ward orders his men to close all the windows and then opens an old coffin containing Dracula, whose face has been fully restored and whose power has also reached its peak. The two forces share the same stench, and in order to conquer the world, they have hit it off. Renfield and Rebecca waited for a long time in the bar, but Kate did not appear. When Renfield received Dracula's telepathy, Rebecca received a call from the mob. It turns out that Kate has been kidnapped. Renfield realizes that this is a very big battle. Just having a gun is not enough. He needs a lot of bugs and all kinds of necessary tools to deal with vampires. Soon, the two arrived at the gang's headquarters and saw Ted Ward's operation. Renfield instantly understood that the gang members had the same ability as him, which undoubtedly increased the difficulty of the battle. Even the shotgun cannot kill Ted Ward. Renfield lets Rebecca go to Kate, and he stays behind to deal with the gang. Ted Ward is quite satisfied with the Dracula power he has acquired. Renfield knows very well that this is not a superpower at all. For him, it is a centuries-long curse. Faced with an aggressive Ted Ward, Renfield quickly eats a bug and kicks Ted Ward in the back, causing his bones to crack and killing him instantly. Rebecca came to the inner room to look for Kate, but unfortunately, it was too late. Kate was already a corpse. At this time Dracula appeared. His blood has the effect of raising the dead. If Rebecca is willing to join, you can let Kate back to life. At this time, Renfield also came here. Rebecca pretended to throw herself into the arms of Dracula, and Dracula looked at the scarred Renfield, showing an evil smile. However, Dracula did not expect. Rebecca pressed the curtain switch, and strong sunlight shone in. Dracula hurriedly transformed into a group of bats to attack them until they were driven to the dark room. Seriously injured, Renfield could no longer bear it and finally fell to the ground. Dracula grabbed Rebecca and floated into the air, stretching out his fangs to give her a fatal blow. Just at the critical moment, Rebecca shot through Dracula's foot, the blood flowing just dripping in Renfield's mouth. Renfield, who was treated, suddenly appeared behind Dracula and pulled out Dracula's fangs with all his might, which didn't seem to work. As Dracula's fangs quickly regenerated, Dracula strangled Renfield's neck. Looking to break the crisis, Renfield did not give up. He remembered the mutual aid friends of the drum force. A strong force from his body backhanded Dracula under the body as a fat beating. Taking advantage of the opportunity of the two sides tangled, Rebecca used a side of white powder to create a magic circle. Into a state of frenzy, Dracula lunged at the two. Caught in the middle of a spell, Dracula has no counterforce, becoming a lamb to the slaughter. Two people looking at the wall will smile. A variety of torture instruments in turn. Dracula will be broken into pieces. In order to prevent him from resurrecting, the two will be ground into powder and cement mixed together, and finally poured into the sewers. This should be the worst death of vampires. Renfield. The biggest highlight of the film is the excellent performance of the two Nicolas Cage as the vampire is very image. The film, blood was spilled and limbs were flying. Here a lot of bloody scenes should not be shown. Interested friends, please go to the original film to enjoy themselves. The above is all the content of this issue. We will see you next issue.